hero.
Have you any hobbies?
My hobbies are fast cars and fast women.
Hobbies are healthy. They teach you things.
Are you ready? Are you ready?
And welcome everybody in.
Fine. Everyone wanted me to host, and here I am rushing around behind the scenes. We finally get on there, and everyone's trying to kicking me out of the front spot. New technology, but there's always a good time. And if we were live, I hope your kids weren't listening. That's all I'll say. But anyway, we have a big show for you, and that's how you know there's going to be a good technical difficulty. We're 7 years into Newsroom, and if there's one thing we love is a good technical difficulty. But the good news is we still have 20 minutes to spare, and Luis Perez is joining the panel, and he's got big news to share. So that's what you guys should be doing right now. Take the link to this stream, share it about. Like the video as well. I never say that at the beginning, so like the video. Make sure you subscribe, and most importantly, click the bell. It builds morale. It also lets you know when we're live, just like now, with Around the UFL. And we have quite the panel with us today. Mr. James Larson. How you doing today, my friend?
I'm doing well. Obviously, it's been a bit of a whirlwind as we're getting on this show with some technical difficulties. I'm in the middle of getting news. Just got some breaking news, actually. The Houston Roughnecks, your Houston Roughnecks, have mutually parted ways with Chris Odom. So he's not returning to the team next season, looking to find a new home. So I know you probably were hoping that he'd be back in action. The former USFL Defensive Player of the Year, he is gone. He's out of there. He's not returning to Houston, but he'll have a new home. So it'll be interesting to see where he lands. I mean, he had a pretty productive season last year, but I think if he moves a bit back to more of his traditional edge role, he'll be a star on someone's roster. We'll see who.
Well, you set me up on that one. I thought this was going to be good news. Sorry,
I know.
Nick,
I'm sorry to do it to you, but, I mean, I'm in the mood today, you know.
Just immediately spitballing on that, I think Michigan's a home run for that. I think that if there's a spot that makes sense for him where he can play just, that pure pass rushing role, I think it's Michigan. They need some bolstering of that room too. I think that's a match made in heaven.
Other side. Put him right on the other side, baby. Breland Speaks,
Breland
Chris
Speaks and Chris
Odom.
Odom. That'd be something.
Just added him.
I love it.
Well, it's always nice to start off the show with some news. Ducky, I mean, I put that comment on the screen. I was just testing it out. Actually didn't read what it said, but a perfect time to welcome you to the show. Hopefully you're doing well today.
Yeah, I'm doing great. I'm a Showboats fan, so I'm always doing great.
Sign you up. Sign you up. Short and sweet, right to the point. Now, I will say, one of these days we are going to get you to host. We will do it. We will do it. It was almost today. But one of these days, everybody chat, let them know. We want Ducky to host. Sign you up. Nick, how you doing today?
Doing good. You know, we're getting close to the start of the season. Only a couple weeks away from coaches and players reporting here at the end of the month. So, just ready. Rosters seem about filled out for most teams. Memphis and a few others are figuring it out, but we're getting really close, and I'm excited for some UFL ball here. Not too long.
Hell yeah! Less than 2 months to go. Zachy boy, big man on campus. How you doing today?
Well, I thought I was going to continue on what I would say my week of getting back in these shows and hosting. So the stepping on the toes was just me continuing energy from our last episode of the UFL podcast, which, by the way, that's available. If you haven't checked that out lately, go ahead and do that. But I see we have got things sorted out. And yeah, I'll back off. I'll step off the toes here. It's okay. You know, otherwise, arena football's in my mind these days.
Yeah, it's exciting stuff. Kickoff, well, not kickoff. I don't know. What do you call it? First game of the year? I don't know, because you don't have a kickoff, right?
No, we have kickoffs.
Oh, do you? I don't know.
Oh, dude, we got kickoffs. Hey, now.
There I go.
Hey, now. I can do a whole episode about arena kickoffs, but I won't do that because that will take the entire show run. So I'm going to end it there. We'll talk later. I'll educate you, my friend.
Well, very good, very good. So I guess, I mean, the big thing, we talked about the HQ on the UFL podcast, but since we have some other members of the panel here, I think it's worth discussing. The UFL actually put out a little teaser video earlier today on social media showing Danny Garcia, Moose Johnston, and some of the other local officials in the area. Which is nice to see, right? You know, even they had on the screen UFL owner. I'm like, oh, UFL owner. Oh yeah, that's right, Danny Garcia. Right? You don't see a lot, but it's kind of nice to see. You know, the contributions coming when they are. Between James, Ducky, Nick, does any of you have any thoughts on the HQ? Whether it be location, the types of facilities that they have to offer, whatever it may be.
Bigger sign on the front.
That would be nice.
I'll jump in. You know, I think it's great for the league that they have the partnership that they do with Arlington. I know there's a lot of arguments that go of, you know, we want to see them in their individual cities. We want to see them getting more involved with the markets and having the teams play and live and practice there. But, you know, it's always been the crawl, walk, run mantra with the league. And even though it's a little bit different now that we're in the UFL, not the USFL, being separate, I think it's important for them to get the groundwork laid first. So to have a HQ like they do in Arlington, especially with the fact that you have all those high quality facilities around, you're going to have like teams that are going to be able to share resources, which I think is important and allows you to cut back on costs. So I think for now, as we're trying to get this thing off the ground, I'm excited about it. I think it's a great location for the league. And, you know, it's something too where the city wants them there. So, you know, they're getting a good deal out of it too. It's not like they're getting ripped off, which I think is the most important thing is if the city wants you there and they can provide you with these resources, why not take advantage of that right now while you're still trying to get on your feet?
Ducky, Thorne, thoughts?
No thoughts.
Other than bigger sign?
Bigger sign.
I'm curious, does anyone have thoughts on the location? Because I know there were some folks out there that were sad to see it officially move to Arlington when the USFL had their headquarters in Birmingham. I don't know if there's any thoughts either direction on that. Go on.
I saw Stallions fans crying about it, but your city's just not that place. It's just, well, there's no airport for sure.
I mean, technically there is an airport and it is close. Now, here's where I'll give Texas just to bring it back to like a real point here that does actually coincide with what you're saying, Ducky. To me, there's probably a big tax difference that makes sense. Second, you already have your hub there. You already have all your players there. So why wouldn't you want to have your marketing people right there to where if they want, they can like walk across the street and go to practice, get some pictures, get some interviews, get whatever the hell they need for the upcoming season. So I love to see it. I mean, just to kind of recap another item I brought up or another point I brought up on the UFL podcast last week was it's just another one of those things that brings legitimacy to the league. You know, Zach, I don't want to steal your point, but I really liked your comparison to the Titan Towers of, you know, having everything kind of wrapped into one big facility to where you kind of you can have these teams work independently, but with each other as well. So either way, again, to me, it's a good sign of, you know, if I'm looking at, is this league going to survive a third year? Them opening a headquarters and a decent sized one at that, you know, right before their season 2, it would make me question, okay, why would they do that if they weren't prepared to play a season 3? Now, again, nothing's guaranteed until it comes from the league. And I'm sure we're not going to hear news about that until the season's over. But hopefully we hear it soon. Hopefully we hear it soon after.
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't want to go and do the same trek too much, but just to kind of summarize what I was saying the other day on UFL podcast, it's, you know, Titan Towers is more than just an office, it was more than just an office building for WWE. It was also a training facility. It was a media facility. You know, it was an all-in-one encompassing big campus for all these athletes and workers to kind of more gel together, more have like synergy, if you will. So that's kind of what I'm trying to go with. It's a good synergy base. And, you know, to James's point, I mean, James absolutely nailing it here. Look, you have a great relationship with the city of Arlington. They're going to give you breaks. They're going to give you some leniency. It's a little different than trying to negotiate with city officials right off the bat, unless you're going to bend the knee on a lot of stuff, which Arlington, I feel like, and everything we've seen with Arlington with negotiating with the XFL in 23 and now with the UFL, you know, they want to, and they've clearly shown this, they want to separate themselves as being independent and unique from Dallas and the Fort Worth Metro as like their own special thing. You know, the only reason the Arlington Renegades are the Arlington Renegades now, not the Dallas Renegades anymore, is they want to be Arlington's team, not Dallas's team. They want to be Arlington's team. So that said, he's going to, I won't say bend the knee, but they're going to be nicer. They're going to play nice. They want to stand out from the crowd in what is a crowded market that they kind of get thrown into everything with the Dallas Fort Worth Metro. So why not? You know, I get it. You know, you get good rates, you're getting good places, and you're still young and in kind of beginnings of a stable new merged product. Stick with the people you know, as I said earlier this week or last week.
Yeah, Zach, I mean, just to bounce off of that, like, it's what we saw with Birmingham and Canton with the USFL. I mean, they've developed really good relationships with those cities. Obviously, Birmingham is still a part of the UFL, just a little bit different now where it's not a hub. But, you know, you got to take advantage of the connections that you have, especially in this scene where we know at any given moment spring football could be taken away from us. So you have to be careful. You got to dot your I's, dot your T's, and don't count your eggs before they hatch.
Mm-hmm. 100%. So, I mean, I think we covered everything with the HQ. I mean, between what our discussion on the UFL podcast this past weekend and, you know, here, maybe shift focus. We talked about Birmingham a little bit. I know there's a lot of fans from Birmingham that watch the show. Thoughts on the new GM? Big shoes to fill. As Zach and I kind of pointed out, going in a little bit opposite direction when it comes to experience. Thoughts from anyone?
I'll jump right in because I thought it was a really interesting move. And it's one, like you said, Paul Rowell and Zach Potter couldn't really be on separate sides even further than they are, you know, of the spectrum when it comes to Rowell, NFL scout for 30 years. And then you've got Zach Potter, who was 16 when he started doing his thing and was in the USFL and the spring league and all of that. So I like the move. Rowell's a guy that was actually in the USFL as a college scout in 2022. So obviously there was some connection there with him, Daryl Johnson. I would not be shocked if Daryl was the guy who actually reached out to Paul himself and was like, hey, let's see if we can get you into this. And Skip was probably like, yeah, absolutely. I mean, is that actually what happened? Nobody knows for sure. But like, I can imagine that Paul Rowell was pushed by brass in the league because he already had a previous relationship with them. Another thing that's interesting to note, though, is that even though Potter has been out for almost a month now, or actually probably about a month, a lot of Birmingham's latest signings have been guys that Potter was getting to Birmingham already. There's only been a couple of signings from Roel. Jaron Jones, who was picked up off of Memphis's waivers, and DeAndre Johnson, who was signed. He was a linebacker previously with the Houston Roughnecks, the XFL version, not your version, ref. All the other signings have been guys that were either A, were in the process of signing from Potter, or B, guys that Potter was like, hey, Skip, these are guys I wanted to bring in. They're available. Go get them. So that's kind of been the process. Like Alex Magoo, that was a big signing that technically came after Roel took over, but that wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for Potter already looking to bring Alex back. And then we saw multiple signings, Davion Davis, Joseph Nagata, the list goes on and on. DJ Coleman, the defensive end. All those guys were Potter guys. So just thought it was interesting and thought I should clarify that.
I think it's been an interesting trend this offseason with the GM hires being people who already are kind of spring football veterans. Right now, this offseason, we've gotten 3 new GMs, and they've all been people who have either been a GM or, like a director of college scouting or whatever, administrative role. They've all been, they all have ties to this current, front office for the UFL, which is a little disappointing for me because I wanted them to really like go out and say, okay, we've had a few years of like showing that like we are sustainable. This is a place that you can use like Zach Potter for upward mobility. And I was hoping they'd get a few more guys that were maybe a little bit younger. I'm not saying Zach Potter young like that. I think so, 1 in a million. Like we're never going to see that again type situation, but like in their 30s and 40s where like, I was, joking about it in on the Discord, but Zach Potter, when he was born, Roel was in his 10th year in the NFL. And those kind of guys I just don't excite me because they're guys that like are using this as a retirement, situation as like, hey, I can stay in it, but I don't have to be traveling 300 days of the year. I don't have to be an area scout in the NFL anymore. So, that was interesting. And you saying that those are the 2 signings he made is a little concerning if I'm Birmingham, just because those 2, if like
I
felt out of
agree.
character.
Like my take is DeAndre Johnson is a guy that I can see, bringing as a camp body, someone who, and I think we might have lost Thorne. I don't know if anybody else saw that, but
No, he's still here.
He's back. He's back.
Yeah, he's still here.
I
You lost
agree
me
because,
for a second.
What?
You lost me for a second there.
Well,
Just to
I'm glad to
finish
have
my
you back, Nick.
Yeah.
Anyways, look, DeAndre Johnson's a guy that has literally had an NFL futures deal with the Packers coming off of the XFL season, and he was in a stacked room in Houston that year where they had some really big names on the defensive line. So even though he wasn't the forefront of that defense, like there's clearly talent there. Jaron Jones, on the other hand, I'm going to go on a little bit of rant here because I do not understand the signing at all. You're cutting Darius Harper, who, did he have his greatest year last year? No. That's a guy who's been with the team for 3 years. He's very familiar with the system. He's been in Skip Holt's offensive system for the last 3 seasons. He's helped them win 3 championships, even as a backup last year. And then you go in and you bring in Jaron Jones, who, is he 2 times all USFL? Yes. But look at what he did last year. He looked like a cone out there on offense. He gave up like 7 sacks. He committed 9 penalties. He played the worst ball of his career, at least in the spring scene. It was awful. Like, he looked terrible. And I hate to say that because I really do like him as a player. And I saw him as one of the best offensive linemen coming into this past UFL season. But he was terrible. Like, there's no other way to put it. So, to me, it's a little odd to cut one of your solid backups who's already had a lot of experience in that scene to bring in somebody that's coming off their worst season. Now, is there one organization that could probably fix Jaron Jones? Yeah, and that's probably Birmingham. But, I don't know. I was a little confused by the move. And Harper, at least he ended up in D.C. I think that'll be a good fit for him. But we'll see.
Yeah, to finish my thought on all that, fully agree on the Jaron Jones stock, and I want to make it clear that like Birmingham's not going to be bad this year, but like they've had probably one of the best off seasons like spring football's ever seen. This is one of the best rosters we've ever seen, and so this is not an effect that's going to transpire this year because if Jaron Jones and DeAndre Johnson don't work out, they have 5 other players at those positions that are going to work out, and so. It's much more of
Oh, we lost him again.
like a long-term there we go. No, yeah,
You're good.
it's a mess here. So, yeah, yeah, yeah. So where was I? So like these are situations that like if this is a trend that starts up, I will be concerned about them going forward in 26 and 27. This is not something that's going to affect them right away, but it's just interesting to hear that like the two moves that I was like, oh, that doesn't really feel like a Birmingham move are the ones that are the new GM. So maybe he has more influence than we realize.
And I'm not gonna name names, but I had somebody reach out to me to let me know, hey, those are not my moves. So I'm sure you can guess who that was. But
It was Pat Zotter. I knew it.
yes, you
That's
got
the
it,
son of a bitch.
Oh, okay, Zach.
Hey, look who it is.
Oh, wait.
That was perfect timing, Zach, for that one.
What's going on, fellas?
Guys, we are joined by an absolute legend, one of probably all of our favorite people in this scene when it comes to just the longevity that he's had. He is the king of spring, Luis Perez. Luis, thanks for joining us, man. How you doing today?
I'm doing great, James. How are you?
Doing well. We're excited to have you on. We really appreciate you joining us today, and we're going to cut right to the chase. We're going to get into it. You kind of have an announcement to make here on some exciting things that you got going on in the background there. I want to open up the floor to you just so you can open up and let us know what you're working on.
Yeah, so I've been down this journey. It's kind of been on my mind for a long time, but I finally just made it happen. I pulled the trigger. I said, you know what? I think it's time. I think it'll be good for myself, and I think it'll be good for a lot of people to read my book. So there it is. So I'm writing a book, and it's gonna actually be launched. Don't quote me on the day. I think it's like March 26th, March 27th ish. That's when it's gonna launch. And it's been a great journey, man. It's been a great journey going back and just remembering all the adversity I went through. Just, I mean, starting from like, even when I was a kid, right? Like 20 plus years ago, right? Now being 30, you forget about those times. So it was good to kind of go back and reflect on all these different things. And yeah, just grateful to be here in this position I am today.
No, absolutely. I mean, like you said, you've been on quite the journey when it comes to not just pro football, but sports in general. We know your bowling background, which I'm sure you've heard quite a bit about that as well. Hopefully you include that in the book. Are we allowed to get the name of the book yet, or is that still not going to be disclosed to the public yet?
Yeah.
Or it's still a work in progress.
Yeah. So no, I'll disclose it here. So it's actually gonna be called The Spring King.
All right.
Yeah. So that's the title.
I love it. What was
Still
the
working on the
inspiration behind
subtitle,
that one?
but I think the title is gonna be The Spring King.
Well, I mean, if anyone can be called the King of Spring, I mean, it's you, Luis. You've had quite the journey, and excited to have you back in the league for another season. What kind of went into your decision to come back and run it back at least for one more year with Arlington?
Yeah. So I think every year I kind of ask myself the same questions. It's like, okay, do I still enjoy the process of getting ready to prepare to play a game? Yes. Am I healthy? Yes. Financially, can I keep doing this? Yes. Yeah, so it's like, why not? And the main one is really, am I playing at a high level? And it's yes. So, I feel like I would be doing a disservice to the league, to myself, and to my family if I wouldn't keep playing. So it was it was pretty easy decision, to be honest. I know there was some speculation about me retiring and stuff like that, but to be honest, I never even crossed my mind. Again, I asked myself those questions, and I said yes to all of them. So, it's really a no-brainer for me.
No, absolutely. I mean, for you, Luis, it's obviously for the love of the game and the passion that you have, and it's something that it makes spring football so worth it because so many guys like you in this scene who are just want to keep playing for the love of the game. So I'm going to open the floor to, obviously we have a lot of panelists here. Nick, I'm going to go to you first. You had a couple questions here for Luis?
Yeah, appreciate you doing this. My first question, I wanted to hear a little bit about your experience with the Chargers and how that process was, and curious if that influenced your decision to come back at all. You obviously were able to play in a preseason game there, a couple of them, and played pretty well in them. So I just wanted to hear about that a little bit.
Yeah, no, it was a great experience. I really enjoyed my time there with Jim Harbaugh and that staff. It was great. I honestly thought I was going to stick around. Unfortunate how things played out. But, yeah, I mean, again, am I playing at a high level, right? I always tell myself that every year. And, I just feel like me being in the NFL in 2024, that just opened the door even more, right? Like, why wouldn't I go back again and try one more time, right? Because my goal is still, like, I know you said I play for the love of the game. I do play for the love of the game, but I mean, I want to go back to the NFL, and I want to be able to stick on a team on a 53-man roster and be able to, be on a roster. And whatever my role is, I'm going to embrace that role and, do the best that I can. But again, the goal is still to go back to the NFL, and I still think that's still in arm's reach.
Cool. And kind of looking forward now with the Renegades, it seems like they're going to be kind of running it back specifically at the skills positions. You're going to have your top 5 wide receivers back. Still need to see if Devion Smith and Sal Cannell will be back. But I'm curious if that continuity in a league where you have a short camp and, you don't necessarily have a full off season to, get that continuity together. Is that a huge plus? Do you think you guys are going to kind of hit the ground running going into camp here?
Yeah, so I think if you just look at our season last year, see kind of how it went. If you really dissect and watch the games and you don't really look at the record itself in the first 6 games, you'd see that, we're a really good football team. And for one reason or another, we just couldn't finish games, whether it was offense or defense or special teams, whatever it was, we just couldn't finish games. And, we were a couple plays away from, being 8-2. So I really do think that, again, coming back, the same guys, right? We're coming in with a different mindset this year, right? We were coming in this year as, okay, well, we're defending champs in the XFL, right? So we have a target on everybody's back. So now it's a little different. Well, now, like, we got to come after all these guys and tell them, hey, we're the old Renegades. We're not the Renegades that you guys saw last year. And I think a lot of guys throughout the offseason are really excited because, like you said, everybody's coming back. Everyone wants, they didn't want to go out like that. Going 3-7, and the way we lost some games was just left us bad taste in our mouth. And I think this year will be a lot different. I really do. Just with the mindset standpoint of like, hey, we got to do whatever it takes to win games. It's hard to win games in pro football. It's hard. It's a game of inches every game. A lot of one-score games. So we got to tighten in on the details, trust the game plan, do what we're capable of, and we'll be fine this year.
All right, and my last question. We saw recently the UFL bring back Jordan Palmer to be their, quarterback development guru. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure you were with him with the XFL in 23. And I was just kind of curious, as a quarterback, is that something that, is a huge help? Is it just kind of fine tuning a few things? Kind of what is your perspective on those kind of like weekend getaways where you spend the weekend with him?
Yeah, I love it. I personally love it. Jordan's very knowledgeable, understands the game from a different perspective that I've never really dissected myself, from like the fundamental aspect and also the mental part, right? Like he played in the NFL. He's a really smart X and O's guy. So being able to be around him, learn footwork, learn, different things, X's and O's is great, especially for young guys. I remember when I first went with him, I mean, he taught me a few things here and there. I'm like, whoa, like I've been playing football a long time and I didn't even know this. So it's definitely great to have for the league to develop quarterbacks. So I'm actually really happy that this is back this year.
Well, I'm gonna move on to Ref. I know you've had a couple questions for Luis, and you've been watching Luis for a long time. I mean, Luis, I don't know if you're familiar with Ref. He goes by Stefan. Actually, his real life name. He's been running Pro Football Newsroom since 2018, since when the XFL was originally announced to come back. So he has followed your journey the entire time. And Ref, the floor is yours.
He's muted.
It wouldn't be me if I wasn't muted. So thank you again for joining the show. I mean, as James mentioned, I mean, you've been a little bit of everywhere when it comes to spring. We're watching the AAF. I was there personally at the Mega Bowl for the Spring League. We've seen you, in both iterations of the XFL, the USFL, now the UFL. If you had to boil that all down and look at everybody that you played, who would you say is like your perfect opponent or your favorite opponent in all those games and all the different leagues that you've had?
Man, that's tough. There's been a lot of good teams. Hard to say one. But I would say this, the competition-wise, I think, now again, it could be two things, right? So it could be that I'm also improving every year, but it could be that competition is also improving every year. So it's hard to tell whether it's the competition improving or I'm improving, right? So I would say this, though. The level of play has been consistently high, right? Ever since the AAF, Like if you look at some of those rosters and you really dissect who was on those teams, and you go back and watch the film and compare that to the USFL, I mean, excuse me, the UFL now, like you'll be able to see like, wow, like these, it's pretty comparable. I mean, these are some good football players that are playing here. I mean, I remember like AAF days, like there was like you had like second round picks, Christian Hackenberg. I mean, there was like Trent Richardson. There was a bunch of big name guys that were productive in the league, and as well as some other guys that maybe were undrafted guys that also play really well. They're probably still in the NFL now. And then you look at this last year, and you look at the UFL and all these big name guys that are playing. They're playing at a high level again, along with the new guys and undrafted guys that are playing well as well. But all those guys from the AAF, right? I don't know how many there are of us left that actually play in the AAF that are playing now in the UFL. But I think the level of competition has been there. Now, again, to pinpoint one team, that's going to be hard. There's just been too many. There's been too many.
No, I can understand that. I mean, the one thing, and I'll agree with you, man, there's been talent in every one of these leagues, and that's why I'm super bullish on what is going on with the UFL. I think both the XFL and the USFL, especially in those second iterations, had the groundwork paved. And to see those organizations kind of come together, we were talking about it before you joined, seeing them open up a HQ in the hub where all the players are at. It just feels like things are finally moving in the right direction, right? No longer is the worry is this league going to make it or not? It feels like that's going to be the consistency, going forward. But I am curious, one of the things that you're known for outside of spring football is your bowling career. And I hope I got this number right, but from my research, it seems like you have 12 perfect games to date. Is that true?
That's correct. Yep.
I'm curious. So when you're ready to finally, put up your pads, lace up your boots for football, hopefully in 5-10 years from now, are you going to go for that 13th perfect game? Are you going to get back into bowling as a profession?
Oh yeah. No, I always have a blast when I go out and play. It's always fun. I don't know. I mean, depending on where I'm at in my career or what I'm doing, I might pursue it professionally or I might just do it recreationally. But I think it'll definitely be somewhere in my life because I do have a love for the game. I still do, and it's fun. Whenever I go recreationally and I go play with my buddies or with my family, or I take my daughters, automatically I get back into that competitive mode, and I take my ball, take my shoes, and I want to shoot the best score I can every time. So. Yeah, I definitely do think it's in the future. But again, I don't know at what level, I guess you can say.
For sure. Well, I love to hear it because I mean that to me, it feels like anytime they play one of those Luis Perez bowling promos, no matter what the league, you come out and you ball out right after that. You guys will vouch for me. I always bring it up in the Discord. Oh, they played the bowling promo. It's about to go down. Mark,
they got to do some more of that.
Yeah, we'll get on the horn with Fox. We'll let them know.
Every game this year. Every game. Honestly, every commercial break. Why not? I'm going to pass the horn over to Zach. Zach, obviously you're a guy that's also been watching Luis for a hot minute, so I'm sure you got a couple good questions here. So the floor's yours.
Yeah, I only got one for you, Louise, and honestly, it kind of piggybacks off the end of what Ref's talking. Like, we've seen you through so many of these different leagues with kind of what has been honestly a resurgence in kind of the alternate football scene. AAF now to leading into what the UFL is today. We've seen the bowling promo. We've seen so much about your story through these years, but I got to ask you, have you processed or embraced that your story is kind of instrumental in like showing that this sector of the football world works? I mean, I'll be frank, like even outside the UFL, the interest in alternative and spring football or even international football, Louise, it's grown exponentially since 2019. Like there's a lot more out there than there was, near 6 years ago. Even when we're talking 2018, when the XFL 2020 edition started, that interest has grown a lot. Players like yourself, have you realized you're a big part of that story?
Yeah, no, and again, when I started tapping into my book and going back and remembering all these different stories and like remembering, man, like I can't believe we really did this and we went through this and did all these kind of different things, and you start tapping into a different part that you haven't really been through. And again, I started noticing like, man, like, because I'm a pretty humble guy. I don't really, go out much. I don't, I'm not a social media guy. I don't do any of that stuff. But when you really start like dissecting everything that I've done in my career to this day, it's pretty amazing. Like every year that I left the spring football, right? And not knowing if there was going to be a spring football the next year, right? 2019,
Of course.
AAF happened. I didn't know what I was going to do, right? Got signed to the NFL for a little bit, and then the XFL popped up, right? Then the XFL was going, and then it shut down, COVID. And then the spring league popped up. And the spring league popped up, and then we didn't know what was going to happen, and then boom, USFL, right? And then USFL was like, okay, well, you know what? We're shut down. And then now or we didn't shut down, but then the XFL came around, and now UFL. So I've been so fortunate that every single year that I've, been either a team just got dismantled or league folded or whatever, there's been another opportunity for me. So I think to answer your question, I've been really grateful for spring football. That's how I can put it. I've been really grateful for spring football because it's given me a platform that I never knew I was going to be able to get. And again, that book really helped me really unlock all that.
Love it. I can't wait to see that come out. And again, I know you're talking, and I didn't know how much of a humble guy you are or not, but I just have to bring it up. Look, we've continued to follow your story. It's almost like we kind of get to share in an indirect way that experience with you through more of a fan lens. So, it's fascinating to watch you because you've been at the forefront of a lot of these different leagues or steps in kind of that history of that part of football. I just think that's really cool. And I just think that is something I think you're going to be taking with yourself for the rest of your life that I think you get to hold on to.
For sure. Appreciate that, Zach.
Mm-hmm.
Louise, as we kind of start to wrap up the segment a little bit, I just want to dive a bit into your relationship with Chuck Long, the OC in Arlington, who you've worked with now for a couple seasons. And he was recently on a show just talking about how much he enjoys working with you and how the two of you guys really just, every week you're going in game playing together, you're working out the plays, you're figuring out what the scheme is going to be. And then during the game, you have freedom to make calls and make decisions down there on the field. What has that process been like for you working with Chuck the last couple of years, and how do you think that camaraderie will, carry over into this third season?
Yeah, no, Chuck's awesome. He's awesome. He played quarterback at such a high level. We relate to each other a lot, and I really haven't felt this comfortable in a system since college. Really, if you go back and look at my career, every year it's just been a new offense every single year, and I think that's really been a big part of my success. Is one, the level of trust he has in me. Two, how we see the game from the same lens. I mean, when he's calling a play, he calls a formation, I know what part of the field where I already know what he's going to call. I can almost finish his sentences, right? So I think that's been awesome. The way we collaborate on game plans and stuff like that has been great. He trusts my expertise in how I see the game and how, certain tendencies I see on film that I want to put in and exploit. And as long as you go in there and you explain why you're doing things, he's all for it. Again, he understands the game. He understands that, whatever plays I'm comfortable with, those are the plays that are going to be successful. So, again, as a collaborative effort, we come up with some plays, and, we've been able to have a pretty good offense.
Yeah, I'm excited to see it all unfold this year, and kind of touch a little bit on Nick and what he talked about. You have a lot of returning pieces, but there's also quite a few new pieces, especially on the offensive line. There'll be a lot of new faces there. The GM's brought in quite a few new guys, and then there's a couple new skills positions as well. Who you're looking most forward to playing with this upcoming season, or if you've been paying attention to some of the signings, is there anyone that you're like, oh wow, like this guy's gonna be a really good addition to our offense this year?
Yeah, no one in particular. I'm just excited to get back out there with the guys, period. I mean, this whole year just takes a long time, right? Because we don't have the OTAs, we don't have all that, right? So it's like you don't see these guys until 3 weeks before the first game, So it's like, man, and I try to hold, my own stuff. I have guys flying in all the time to throw with me and stuff like that, but that's all, on our own dime, and it's all, nothing with the league. So it's also really hard to get everybody on the same page, right? But again, I try to do my best to get everybody together as much as we can. But yeah, I'm just excited to get with everybody, really. New guys, I'm excited, to bring their new energy and to fall in line. We have a really good culture there. Coach Stoops and Long and Coach Hayes do a great job, just with everything. The way, Stoops to me, man, the way he just knows how to galvanize a team, it's like no other. He just knows what to say at the right time, all the time. And he knows how to get us, riled up. He knows when we need to, hey, pick it up. This is not our standard, right? And he knows how to do it in a manner where it's like, man, I want to play for this guy. I really want to just keep going and pursue and win games for you, not only for each other, but for my head coach. And that's always a great feeling.
No, absolutely. Final question for me. Kind of to tie back into the book, like we've talked about so much, your career has been an inspiration to so many guys in this scene, and you've been one of the faces, whether it's the AAF, the Spring League, the USFL, now the UFL. Not just with the book, but what would be like your message to players that are just, staying at it, trying to do exactly what you've been doing, making, a career for themselves in the scene, just in pro football in general? Like, what's the message that you give to them?
Well, it's not how many times you fall, right? It's about how many times you get up, right? And like giving up to me, like I get chills when I hear that word because it's like that doesn't exist, right? Like giving up to me is just not in my vocabulary. Like when I pursue something and I want to do it, I'm gonna do it, and I'm gonna do it until like I can't or I'm told, hey, you're done, right? So I'm gonna continue to play football as long as I can, and as long as as long as I'm playing at a high level, as long as I'm, doing all these different things like I explained to you earlier, I'm gonna keep playing. And my message is, if you really want something so bad, you will find a way to get it done. So do you really want it that bad? That's the question you should ask yourself.
Right on. Luis, absolutely love it. We really appreciate you joining us today. Does anyone else have any final questions here for Luis or parting words before we send him off and get him on his way to training camp here in the next few weeks?
There I am on mute. The main thing I want to say is thank you for joining. Like I said, this is a big moment for us. I'm looking forward to reading your book. Again, remind folks, where can they find you on social media? Where are you going to be releasing news, like updates on when the book is released and all those things, just so everybody can take note of that?
Yeah, so it'll be on my Instagram. I don't have access to my Twitter anymore. It got hacked, so if you get any weird messages from that, it's not me. So I'm still in
I
the
was
process of trying to
wondering
get
what
that
the
back.
message was that you sent me the other day. It's really confused me, so it must have been whoever that was.
So I'm still trying to get that back. But yeah, so it'll be on my Instagram, Perez Luis QB.
Perfect.
All right, guys, make sure
The
you're following
Spring
that,
King.
and we'll be looking forward to it, and we'll do a review on Newsroom.
Appreciate you
Book
guys.
club.
There we go. Luis,
Appreciate
thanks
you
again
having
so
me.
much for joining us. As someone who's been following the scene the last several years, been following your journey from the AAF here to the UFL, it's been a pleasure and honor to speak with you. And I look forward to hopefully seeing you in some press conferences this year and down there on the field. And go Renegades. Go crush it this season. Thanks
Renegades.
again so much for joining us.
Appreciate you, James. Appreciate you guys.
Take
Have a
it
good
easy.
one.
Bye.
See you.
Man, that was fun. Another big interview, another big Monday. I'm excited, and I'm not BSing. I am actually legit excited for his book. A little known fact: the ref does like to read. I actually have 3 books that are sitting in my queue right now that are probably going to get skipped for this Luis Perez book come March. So I'm looking forward to that.
Hopefully there's pictures in the book. That way, like Battlehawks fans can do something with it. They probably have a hard time reading.
You had to explain the joke for him too.
Yeah.
Well, big Monday, but you know what? We have a big Sunday coming up. I put out my prediction on the internet, but I am curious to see what you guys' thoughts are on the Super Bowl this weekend. Who's everybody picking?
I'm not watching.
What? Well, you can still pick a team.
I'll give you a team. The Memphis Showboats.
I changed my pick.
In reality, probably the Eagles. Saquon Barkley. He's just tough to stop.
Well, before I get to it, all right, Nick, Zach, who are your thoughts?
I win. No, I'm kidding. It's good. I'll go Philadelphia.
Thorne?
I guess I'll go KC then.
Well, I'm glad that you're on the right side of history
I'm
here.
going Chiefs as well.
There you go.
The
3
Eagles
against
want
2.
to repeat.
If
They'll
there's
for
a
sure
team
make
to
sure
beat
that some
them,
flags are thrown.
it's the Eagles, but
If
Opposing
any
force.
Eagles defenders come within 10 feet of him or breathe on him the wrong way, maybe injure his pinky nail or something.
Yeah, which
There
doesn't
will be
happen in
many
the
flags
UFL, which is why you should only watch the UFL.
Yeah.
100%. 100%. So for the folks that did pick the Eagles on this show, you missed out on my video. I had 3 very scientifically proven facts on why the Eagles just cannot win. There's no feasible way for them to win. It's not that they cannot win, that they're not going to win. They're just not, there's no feasible way for them to pull it off. I'll go through the list just real quick, just to kind of remind everybody here. I mean, first, okay, the big one, NFL, they love the Chiefs. Who cares? 3-peat, sign them up. Get Taylor Swift out there, give him a French kiss, give her a ring, put a trophy in her hand, sign them up, right?
Yikes.
Boom. Number 1. Number two, and this is legitimate. And people say, no, ref, you don't know what you're talking about. The fans, and James, you'll know firsthand, fans will ruin your winning chances. What happened with you, James, and your Vikings? You had some dancing granny out there shaking it when she should not have been shaking it. And what happened? Boom, you didn't win. Look at the Eagles fans. Eagles fans all up to no good. I said it on the show. It takes a lot for me to feel bad for a Packers fan, and I got close. I hate the Packers. I legitimately hate the Packers. There's not much you could do to a Packers fan where I'd say, oh, you shouldn't be doing that. But you had that Eagles guy going off on the big, not the big. See, here I go. I'm taking the Eagles guy's side on that Packers lady. I mean, you can't be doing that. You can't be doing that. And then you got the Commanders thing, and then the guy falling off the telephone pole. They're toast. They're done. They're fans.
He had me killed when he said that I almost felt bad for a Packers fan. I was like, yeah, no, we're good. It's always FTP.
Well, I don't know if you saw in the video.
Never
I
a
made sure.
close.
The transactions dropped.
All right.
Freddie,
Who do we got? Anything good?
Freddie's
Who's coming to the Roughnecks?
I think the big thing to mention here is that, people accuse ATU of not having pull, but DeAndre Johnson just got cut. So
Look at that.
I think I think I have an effect on the league decisions there. But I'll also say that getting Ronnie Perkins to replace him is probably immediately one of the best edge rushers in the league.
Probably
Birmingham's
not.
edge rush group is like absurd.
Mid.
It's got like 4 guys who are NFL vets who've been in the league for played in regular season NFL games and been contributors. Ronnie Perkins is probably the best of the group right now.
I love it. I love that move.
Not a single one of them will score on Memphis's defense.
I will.
It's not possible, Ducky.
Well, I will say is
So I'm right.
Pretty solid move there.
I'm waiting. Every day these transactions come through, I'm like, all right, here's the day the Roughnecks are going to make a splash. Here it is. Here I am again.
Damon Arnett.
Bobby, they're posted on the UFL PR Twitter or X.
Here, you know what? We'll even do you one better. We have all this technology that we never even use. Hold on. Let's just
Whoa,
do this.
we about to break something here.
I think so. God, I
Stream
hope
might go
this
down.
works.
Hey, it worked.
Look at
There
that.
we go.
Yeah.
There we go. So yeah, we have on the waivers, we got DeAndre Johnson getting picked up. We got Will Clark for the Renegades, Ronnie Perkins for the Stallions. I mean, most of these, James, I think you've already brought these up. But this is why you need to be following James and all of these other guys over on social media, because if you want these picks, you're going to be seeing them.
Definitely
Memphis,
follow James. You should do that.
well, Ducky, you got some
agree.
new crew over here. These are your
Cam Dantzler's an interesting pickup because he
Yeah.
was supposed
Yeah.
to play with the Brahmins
sure.
last year and then never showed up. So, or he did show up and then he left like right away. So
he
that was a
realized it
weird
wasn't the
story.
showboats.
Yep.
I think he was like
He's-
a 3rd round pick.
He's like, I
remember
about said
correctly.
something. Oh, I about said something. That would have been horrible.
Hey, now.
That would have been horrible.
Can't be breaking that news right now.
Man. Okay.
Womp womp. All right. Anyway, Michigan. Again, going back to James's Twitter X account. There is no Twitter. What is this Twitter?
Oh my gosh.
People always
Kanye returned to X last night, and he even said, "There's no Twitter. You can't be calling Twitter." Anyway, we're not going to talk about Kanye. Anyway, Breland speaks. That's some big news, Zachy boy. You got to be feeling good about that one.
I've been glad since James dropped that one down. I mean, look, I'll take the veterans from what has been a stellar defense for Michigan for a little bit now, coming back. It's I think really for me, just and we'll talk. I would talk more with Jake if we had him on here. Is
he's grilling.
I wasn't gonna say that, but anyhow, just got to figure out the QB spot and make sure we get the right setup on that side. But I'll take the defensive player of the year any given day back on that roster, and I will also materialize, much like Thorne's talking with our poll, to get Chris Odom to land on Michigan's roster. So hear us, please. Land another amazing edge rusher. That's all I ask.
It's a fake out. He's going to come to Houston.
After he leaves.
They're faking everyone out. This is the biggest play.
Ways with an organization to return.
I just need some time to decide if I want to be here.
It's going to be opening day. Battlehawks are taking the field. All of a sudden, oh my God!
Just
Chris Odom hitting the field? He's coming from the stands,
Wait,
just because we meant...
Wasn't Chris Odom the one with didn't he have a cigarette in his mouth?
No,
no. That was Northrop. Reggie Northrop.
That's what it was.
Which also shout out. I hope he finds a spot if he's still in, or got a martial arts combat career coming up if needed be. So he's got options.
Yeah. It's gonna be tough for Odom to find a spot just because a lot of these rooms are full, pretty full. I think Arlington could be a decent fit for him, especially since it looks like Vic Beasley isn't coming back. So I could see him fitting into that room. Birmingham's tough because I was about to say that, they could just cut DeAndre Johnson for Chris Odom, but they just signed Ronnie Perkins, so they're not going to do that. So we'll see where he lands, but, it's the former Defensive Player of the Year. You have to imagine he'll have pretty decent pull somewhere.
Someone will pick him up. Spot.
Yeah.
Did anybody see any of the tabs that Ref had opened up?
Could you see my tabs?
No, I'm just kidding.
No, I'm just kidding. It's not that bad anyway. I'm about to get Alex Jones. Anyway, if anyone knows that reference.
How to leave the Roughnecks fandom. It's in a Google tab.
How to pay refs.
It's like, how many games do you have to win to get 12-0?
How to get on a football field.
How to get your head coach fired.
I'm clipping that. He just said, how many games do you have to win to go 12-0?
That's Detroit education in Texas, buddy. I'll tell you what. But all right. Well, I think we went through the gauntlet. I hopefully will be back next Monday. I will celebrate. I'll tell everybody that picked the Eagles that you were wrong. I was right. Any other final thoughts before we head into the week?
Not really. I would say for the most part, expect there's not going to be any major. Well, there might be some big signings, but most of these teams are pretty full. So I think the signings are going to start to kind of die down a little bit. We're going to see these teams just finalizing their rosters, and what's going to be more exciting is probably about a month and a half from now when these teams are actually in training camp and we get to see who makes the final cut.
Yeah, I cannot wait for training camp to be doing Around the UFL. That's when the news is really happening. By then, we should have a full idea of the full coaching staffs for all the teams. So that's some exciting news that should be around the corner. Of course, there's going to be all sorts of news coming out of training camp. Can we not forget Spring Stock Flippin' 4 in Houston, Texas, home of the Swanger. So I better see some there. We'll be dropping some more details on that one shortly, so make sure you stay tuned to all the social medias at PF Newsroom, at UFL Newsroom, at Around the UFL, at UFL Podcast, at all of our things that you can find somewhere, I'm sure. The big things, though, make sure you subscribe. Click the bell. It builds morale. And this one's easy. It's free, and it just feels good. Like the video. Yeah. Like the video. Oh, my God. You're going to click that button, and all of your problems are going to go away. If you're having a good day, you're going to click that like button, and you're going to have a better day. These are the things that make the world go round. But I think that's it, folks. So until next time, sign you up. Let's see if it ends on time. Battlehawk suck, just in case. Did it work? Oh, there we go.